All right, hello wine drinking people, and it's time for more of what I had to drink yesterday. April, a very busy month here with events. I think we had 6 events the week. We had Jim Bernal in town. We had the Krupp Brothers dinner at Cafe Max on the same exact evening. And, I opted to stay here and do this blending seminar because this is something I've been looking forward to since I talked to Jim about it. And he said that, hey, Andrew, I've got these clones. It would be cool if I could come and do this clonal tasting with some of your wine drinking people. I said, Jim, man, that is a great idea. I have never done that. I have never sat down and tasted different clones side by side of Pinot Noir and then tried to make a blend with them. We do this with Anthony Bell with Cabernet Sauvignon. And I said, what the heck not? And we had a nice small group. Not enough people, though. For something like this, I would think we'd have a sold-out event within weeks of the event because it's such a unique opportunity to see how one of the top minds in the Oregon wine industry does what he does. And Jim Bernal has been doing this for 30 years. That's right. When he planted his vines in Oregon, he was using like a Christmas tree planter and garden hoses to do the irrigation. They didn't have hardly any equipment back then, hardly any proper equipment to do what they needed to do. So it's amazing how far the Oregon wine industry has come over the last 30 years. And Jim, just a wealth of knowledge, incredibly interesting man to listen to, and he dictated to us the history of the Oregon wine industry, and then a lot of other useful bits of information to put all the pieces together to show people how to put the blend together and what to look for in these different clones. And several of these clones were brought to California, or were brought from California by David Lett in the 60s, and that's the Pommard clone and the Wadenswil clone. Whatever. It's from Switzerland. It's a Swiss town. And believe it or not, yes, they grow a lot of Pinot Noir in Switzerland and Germany and other parts in Europe. Pinot Noir is one of the oldest grape varietals. They have DNA evidence saying this varietal goes back 4,000 years. And Pinot Noir also one of the most heavily mutated of all the grape varietals. It has very unstable DNA. And Chardonnay is one of these grapes that's evolved from Pinot Noir, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris, the Pinot family of grapes they call them, and some believe there are thousands of different types of Pinot that have evolved from this one varietal. There's 200 different clones of Pinot Noir that are used in viticulture today. I think there's only 15 clones of Cabernet Sauvignon, so a much wider palette of clones to draw from in the Pinot Noir world. Well, we started out and we tasted all the 4 clones that Jim brought. As I mentioned before, the Pommard and the Wadensvil, that's how you say that, clone was brought from California by David Lett, the father of Burgundian varietals in Oregon viticulture, and then the 667 and 777, and yes, there is a 666 clone also, but we didn't have that on this evening, but those were brought by Mr. Drouhin when he started Domaine Drouhin in the mid-80s. So these clones he felt were the best to suit the climate and the terroir in Oregon. So I think they definitely add something to the blend. When you taste these wines, 4 of them separately, the Pommard clone has a lot of structure to it, lovely red and dark berry fruit, some light spice and pretty earth tones, a little meaty nuance. Pommard known for its richness and its a beefy nature in Burgundy, and this clone kind of reflects some of that quality. The Wadensvil clone, the other clone that was brought up by David Lett, this wine may be a little more austere, some lovely exotic spice and some earthy kind of truffly notes, that raspberry, more of a lighter berry fruits, and a nice amount of minerality. This wine, some lovely silky smooth tannins, a little more bright acidity on the finish, but very nice by itself. You could see that bright acidity would lend itself maybe to brightening up this Pommard clone if used in a blend, as these two are often blended together in Oregon. Then the 667 and the 777, a strong kind of gravelly mineral note to this 6667 when we first opened it up. A good amount of spice, a little minty note there, some lemony citrus even, and this clone has really bright acidity. It's used to beef up the acidity and the structure of a wine. Lovely bright raspberry and some of that lemon citrus fruit shown through on the palate. Very tangy finish. Kind of soft tannins and a nice spice at the end with that one. And then the 777, this wine had a lovely kind of floral, almost antiseptic note to it, a mint and some of that lemon citrus. And this also a light kind of earthy, musty note to it, bright red cherry fruit, a hint of raw meat. The 777 definitely has a little more structure here on the palate, a lot more tannins. This one also used kind of as the backbone of a blend with these two type of varietals here, 667 and 777, you could put together. And like I said, just like the Pommard Clone and the Wadensvil, and they would work nicely. One's got a little more acidity, one's got a little more structure. But really nice. And then the South Block, which is what we were trying to do, create a blend that resembled this South Block. This wine had more complexity on the nose and really lovely fruit and spice, and just seemed to have more of everything that these other wines had. And you know, even more evident on the second day. One of the things I'm starting to do with my tastings is keep the wines in their glass for 12 hours, come back in the next morning and taste them, and you notice the differences in quality. I think much more the second day, and the nose on this South Block the second day, just so much more complex and so much more interesting, and the palate still very fresh. The other wines tended to have a little bit more of a salty quality to them. That's what happens as the wine sits in the glass, and the South Block just really had opened up, and really beautiful stuff. Unfortunately, we have no 08 South Block to sell. We do have a little bit more of the Willamette Valley Estate, which we'll include on this offer for you folks. And we did a little blending, we did a little mixing. We had the graduated cylinders out, and you know, I mixed up first Pommard and 777, and just a little bit of 667, and a little bit of the Wadensvil, thinking, okay, this is going to be a big style Pinot. And then I did another glass that had the exact opposite blend in it. It had this mostly 667 and mostly Wadensvil, and a little bit of 777, a little bit of Pommard Clone. And unbelievable, the exact opposite thing happened. The one that had more of the clones that were supposed to put backbone into it seemed to have less backbone, and the one that had more of the wines that were lighter and had more acidity seemed to have more backbone. So a really educational experience for me, and we went through, and you know, we did have a little competition. I wasn't taking notes to see who won. I'm sorry, folks, but it was a lot of fun. A good time was had by all. Thank you very much, Jim, for coming and showing us the differences between these different clones and how you do your blend. A great time was had by all. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.